All right, folks, we welcome you back to the Steve Malzberg Show, and we are privileged to be joined once again by John Yoo, professor of law at Berkeley Law School, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General at the DOJ. And John, great to talk to you, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Please excuse my funny headset and messy office because I can't be with you in New York.
No, I could, if I had known, I would have put on a funny headset too. And if you ever saw my office in my basement, yours is neat by comparison, so no worries. And of course, the book Point of Attack, which everybody should definitely get a hold of and read. Now, John, let me ask you something. We're going to talk to General Michael Hayden, former head of the CIA and the NSA, in just a few minutes. And I spoke with them earlier, and we're going to talk about this in the interview, that he considers the Benghazi suspect, the alleged mastermind who was announced they got in a raid in Libya. Libya is demanding him back, by the way. He's now on a slow boat ride back to the United States where he will be charged. He was indicted. It was unsealed. He'll be charged in a civilian court. So there's a lot going on there, and I want you to comment on almost every aspect. But General Hayden said that he believes this is rendition, and he's glad we're doing it, but he believes it's rendition, which, of course, this president would shudder and deny vehemently. So what's your take on?
Well, first, we shouldn't take away from the Obama administration going out and capturing top leader of Al Qaeda. The problem is that they don't do it very often. This may be really the first high-ranking Al Qaeda leader of any significance who's been captured during the entire Obama administration. So it's a good thing, but it also shows the sad point that this administration has not been doing. And the reason why it's important is not just to bring them back to the United States and try them. The important reason to grab people like this is to get intelligence from them. He's far more valuable to us for what he knows about what Al Qaeda is doing in Libya and about what happened in the Benghazi embassy attack and what else they might have planned for the future. I think that's way more important than the trial aspect. So the second point to make, and I think this goes to General Hayden's point about whether this is rendition or not, is that we have gone abroad and we've captured someone who's not an American for waging war against us. What we do with him does not have to be dictated by the law enforcement system. He doesn't have to be brought back to Washington, D.C. and tried in federal court. There's a lot of dangers we can talk about with doing that. There's a whole nother option, which is to take him to Guantanamo Bay and try him in a military court, which is how America historically has tried enemy prisoners for war crimes. And so this administration has this kind of these blinders on where they think everything has to go through civilian court, just as if this guy was a kidnapper or a bank robber and gets all the protections of our Constitution, despite the fact that he's very dangerous and has lots of information about future plans of attack against the United States.
Yeah, no, I couldn't reportedly and put themselves in harm's way and mission successful, and God bless them. And I'm glad we have him finally, although he's done TV interviews over the course of the months since the Benghazi attack. He was hiding in plain sight, many people say, and they wonder why we waited this long. But again, having said that, the reason I broached with General Hayden, because of course the left is leaving, for the most part, especially the media, Obama alone, whether it's the use of drones, the increased use of drones over the Bush administration's use of drones, deciding that you could kill an American citizen with a drone attack if he's overseas, if it's believed he's a threat. All these things that if they were taking place under the administration you served, they'd be calling, more of the same names that they have already called, Bush and Cheney and yourself and others, but they leave Obama alone. So I was just wondering if this was an end run around the CIA interrogation unit, which has been disbanded by Obama. He's on a slow boat, and they're most likely interrogating him in much the same manner, correct?
Oh yes, let's be clear that the Democrats and the administration are being hypocrites. The administration are being hypocrites compared to what they said during the campaigns from 2006 to 2008 and what they're doing now. Because if they really believed that this guy was just a criminal suspect and not an enemy fighter, then they would have read him his Miranda rights and given him a lawyer as soon as they captured him. And they didn't. But that's your right under the Constitution for anybody who's a criminal detained by the government in the United States. Instead, what they're doing, as you said, they've got him on this ship. They're taking their time getting back to the United States. And in this period, and I think this is what General Hayden means when he says this is a rendition, is he's been captured but not been given his criminal rights yet. He's being interrogated for intelligence information, but not as long as might be useful because they're still determined to hand him over to the criminal justice system. The reason this is a bad idea is, one, if he knows that's going to happen, then why should he cooperate in any interrogation for the few days before he gets his lawyer? And two, once they try to prosecute him in federal court, his lawyers are going to say that whole period where you were interrogating him without Miranda has tainted the whole case and he cannot get a fair trial and has to be released. So I think actually what this administration has done has mixed the civilian law enforcement system, which protects all of us as Americans, and the rules for war, which we use against our enemies. They've kind of mixed them in this strange way that actually threatens the effectiveness of both, in which our interest as civilians, people living in the United States as Americans, is to keep them separate. We don't want those two worlds mixed together. We like that there's this constitutional Bill of Rights system for civilians, American citizens, and then a separate rule for warfare against enemy where you don't get Miranda and you don't get lawyers, and they never have, and you get tried by military courts.
Yeah, and they wanted to do it with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and others, but pressure deterred them from doing it. But this is really blurred, and we only got a minute in this segment. Well, and I know you're coming back with another segment in a second, but this is really blurred because it's kind of like half, GITMO on the ship, and then it's going to be, okay, here's your lawyer. That's weird to me. Will that affect his criminal trial?
It very well could. You've put your finger on it. None of the cases where this has happened has gone up to the Supreme Court yet, but one of these will, because they are dangerously mixing it and could prejudice the kind of trial we're able to have. The convictions that they've had so far, the Obama administration's had so far, are still up on appeal, so we don't know whether any of those convictions will survive.
Very interesting. All right, stay where you are. John Yoo, a law professor at Berkeley, and of course former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, one of the men who helped keep this country safe in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, and did so under such harsh criticism from the left. We're coming back with more with John Yoo right here on Newsmax Television on the Steve Malzberg Show.